Yes, what I wanted to do is to jump on very quickly on a few business cases, just to maybe illustrate a little bit better some of the information I've shared with you today. So the first one, and the first one happens to be in your industry. So it's a manufacturer of escape ramps for subways tunnel. And so the challenge is as follow. There is an RFP that the company want to answer to with a client, with a partner. And the question being asked is that, so the company is actually doing the engineering, and so they're not manufacturing themselves. So in Europe, they work with a network of manufacturers that, you know, they do the engineering, the other people manufacture for them, and they sell the finished product. And so because they don't do any manufacturing, the question for them is, should we manufacture in Europe or should we manufacture locally and save on the shipping cost? Everything is based out of steel, so it's very heavy, and so the cost of shipping is pretty high. So we started to look at, you know, at that option, and the first thing was, okay, so what is the cost of 25 tons of steel in Canada? Well, it seems like a fairly easy question, but turns out to be a very complicated question for different reasons. The first one is that there is a ton of different type of steel. So ask the client, okay, what type of steel you're using? Well, it's S235. Okay, so look at S235. S235 doesn't exist in Canada. There is nothing named like that. So first thing is to try to find the equivalent. And it's not very easy because there's not an exact equivalent, because the thickness, the mechanical strengths, they don't have a product that exactly matches those. So now you've done all your engineering based on those numbers, and you want to manufacture in Canada, but you can't find the exact same steel. So how do you do it? You have to redo your calculation, or so, you know, it's a real challenge. And then you're looking at thickness versus gauge. You know, I mentioned before that Canada is in the metric system for over 20 years, but when it comes to steel, for example, and it's same for wood and it's same for a lot of commodities, you cannot find something that's, for example, 2 millimeters. There's not one roll of steel that's 2 millimeters of thickness. It's going to be in inches, and so it's going to be, you know, 2/8 of an inch. But therefore, it's not 2 millimeters. It's either 1.8 or 2.2. So it makes things, you know, a little bit tricky, and people have to understand when they prepare their project that it's not just, oh, I take my drawings and my engineering structure in Europe and I bring it in Canada and just get it manufactured here. It's way more challenging than that. So I just wanted to share that first example with you because I think it's a great way to illustrate the fact that we have steel in Canada, but it's not the same steel. We use millimeters, but not really in business. The name of the similar product exists, but it's not the same name and it's not exactly the same product. So there is some work to be done prior to coming and selling your product here. So that's the first business case I wanted to share very briefly. The second one, it's kind of a little bit the same idea, but a manufacturer of a racking system for solar farms. It was a German company. They did all their engineering calculation based on a specific thickness of steel, and then they came to Canada. And because of the feed-in tariff, they had no choice but to get it manufactured in Canada. So they look at the option, but again, what was 3 millimeters, let's say, didn't exist there. So either it was a lighter steel, and therefore they had to redo all the engineering calculation for strength, or it was a heavier steel, but then if your steel is heavier by 10-15%, the cost of your product is also more expensive by 10-15%. And so your competitiveness is questioned. So again, I think it's very interesting to understand from the very beginning on that type of project that you need to understand what's the environment, what's the context, what's available out there before you start making the move. And then when you work on the project early, make sure that you include what is the truth of North America in your project, so the cost later on will be much lighter of redeveloping or reassessing. The third business case, I've talked about it, so I'll go very fast, but all the electronic components have to be able to support thermical amplitude of -40 to +40. That's what's going to be requested most of the time. It's not always expected from the people in Europe. And so you need to make sure that if you have a product, an equipment, that all the components are able to work in a winter or highly hot and humid climate. So again, another example of something you need to think of and adapt. And this one is pretty interesting, and I think our colleague, your colleagues here from the Extra Light project will appreciate that. One of my clients is doing lightning system. Sorry. Lightning system for the construction industry. So we put them in touch with a distributor. The distributor presents the product. They get the first orders. They ask for the order to be shipped. And nobody, neither my client, neither the distributor, thought about the fact that the plugs are different in Europe than it is in Canada. And so they shipped all the lightning with the French plugs. So the product gets there, they open the crate and they see all those great products, but they're not able to plug them in a wall or in any other device, as a matter of fact. So they had to cut all the plugs, rewired everything, and put some new plugs. It's not that big of a deal in that instance, but because the order was the first order and was only 10 lights. But can you imagine if you have like 100, 1,000 pieces that you're shipping and none of them can be used just because you forget to put the right plug at the beginning? That can create some issue, and it doesn't make you look very good with your client that the first order comes all wrong. So yeah, that's another business case I just wanted to briefly share with you in terms of adapting the product and the way you think and understanding it's a faraway market, and you need to make sure you understand everything.